I'd like to thank all of you who have shared the videos that we're running in this series about how to work with the child protection system, the department, and particularly the social workers involved. I've received some criticism lately about what language we should use. I did a post, in fact, stating that it is unhelpful for us to use abusive language in relation to anyone we're working with, and particularly the department. I've had criticism that perhaps I was too soft. I've had other people say that there are times when I become passionate and I might use language that perhaps is unhelpful as well. And I do kind of accept that on occasions I have done that. I do want to make the point though that when we're working directly with the department, it is in our best interest, in fact it's in everybody's best interest, if we just find a space, a place within that system that allows us to be respectful. Which brings me to our topic today, which is a strange topic because it's about respect and challenging questions. So what do they have to do with each other? Well, the two have a lot to do with their similar nature. Now, it is about, as I was just saying, finding ways to be respectful, because if we're disrespectful of others, then we're just not going to get what we want. So we need to find a pathway in which to be respectful, even though I accept we may be extremely angry, may be extremely disappointed in what people are doing and the impact they have on us because they've taken our children. But on all occasions, we need to find respectful language. And one way we can do that about being respectful and challenging is also to find the right questions we need to be asking of those people that have the power and authority in this situation, namely the department and the social workers. So sometimes we can choose challenging questions which appear to be, and hopefully are, respectful in nature, not attacking, but are endeavouring to challenge what others are doing and also letting them know the impact that their behaviour may be having on you. So well, an example of this, for example, is we could find ourselves saying, well, I'm really curious as to what you meant by what you just said. So if you're feeling attacked or they're not explaining something appropriately to you, you could ask them what they mean by what it is that they're saying. You can also find other questions to ask. Like, when you say whatever it is that they just said, what impact do you think that has on me? So when they're attacking you about your parenting, you can ask them what they think that is like for you and what their behaviour does that causes you to feel the way that you do. Now, questioning does a number of things. I think the most important thing that it does is it is about you seeking further information about exactly what's happening at that time. Also, it redirects the conversation back to them. So if someone's attacking us, all that energy and everything's going towards us. And what we need to do is find a way to invert that energy so that it focuses back on them. And the best way that we can do that is to ask them a question about them. You know, what did you mean by what you just said? When you say such and such, how do you think that impacts me? So you're getting them to think about the impact of their behaviour. When you removed my children, how would you have expected me to have responded? What would you expect me to do now that my children are no longer with me and I don't have the income that I had because Centrelink's cut me off? What do you expect me to do? When you want me to go out and find services, what sort of services would you like me to find? Are you going to recommend me directly to those services? So sometimes people get really confused about what actually is happening for them. and what they need to have done in order to resolve the problem. You can find those answers by simply asking questions. As I've said on many videos too, if we've got an advocate with us, someone who could notate what it is that's happening, then they could notate those responses. What I do suggest to people is that they write a list of the types of questions that they would like to ask. And remember that all questions are how, what, when and why type questions. We want an open-ended answer. We don't want them to say yes or no to something that you've asked. We want them to explain what it is that they intend to do as a result of the question that you've asked. Now, it is true that most of us don't know how to ask questions, and particularly when we're in situations where we're feeling under the hammer, when we're feeling attacked, it's really difficult to come forth with questions. Now, there are questions that you could ask at any time, regardless of what is said, and that is the one I just gave to you a little while ago, and that is, when you say such and such to me, what impact do you think that has on me? The other general question is, what do you mean by what you just said? And you can say that about anything, in fact. What did you mean by what you just said? And we need to find ways to be able to ask those questions without getting into a debate. You have to remember the department has made a decision about taking your child. That is it. In fact, that's the end of the story. There's probably nothing you can do at that particular point, apart from seeking clarification and make them responsible for the way that they're behaving around you. Remember, the department are always wanting you to take responsibility for your behaviour, but often none of us find a way to make them responsible for theirs. The best way we can do that is to ask them a question. Now, I need to tell you, you're going to get a couple of responses when you ask the question. The first response will be defensiveness. They will not want to answer it because they're not used to it to start with. And secondly, they believe that they have all the power, and how dare you take that power back by asking a question. If they fail to answer that question, you simply ask them the same question again, but you stay calm when doing so. The most important thing to do, I think, is when you ask questions, is to watch that person's face. Look at the response that you get. If you're going to get a negative response, sort of a jerk or a sense of that they were confused by what just happened, then you've probably won the discussion at that particular point. That's all you need to do. Let them know that you're the one in control, because you're the one who's also able to ask questions, not just them telling you who they believe you are. We can ask questions about them, what they're doing, their behaviour, and how their behaviour has impacted you and your children. Most people won't even do this, I can tell you now. So all of you that are watching, I appreciate it, but you will feel uncomfortable doing something that you've never done before. So what I suggest that you might like to think about is having a whole day where, this sounds bizarre, I know, but please stay with me, having a whole day where you just ask questions of your friends, of people that you're associating with during the day. Just ask how, what, when, why type questions, and see what sort of response you get. And just teach yourself to be able to do that. It's very easy for someone like me because that's my job. But for most people, they struggle. But it's an important and interesting tool to have in your kit bag when you're dealing with the department. If we want them to be responsible, we have to ask them to be responsible. The best way to do that is to ask them appropriate questions at the appropriate time, to stay calm, to not get angry at them, and just watch their response. I hope that's been helpful to you, everybody. I just want to say, just respect them by asking these questions. Be respectful of them. I think you'll find if you're respectful of them and you ask them questions, they'll probably be more respectful of you too. Thanks everybody, take care, look after yourselves and be safe.